What's your Rage Legends? Welcome to the video. I'm not alone. I am joined by BigPoppaDrock. Big Papa, what's up, man? How you doing?
My man, I'm doing great.
How you living over there, He-Man?
Dude, I saw the He-Man collab and I was like, it's perfect. They've put me in the game just as my idealized jacked form, you know, if I were about 50 pounds lighter.
No.
So, doing great, man.
Well, I don't want to ruin anything, but you might be planning a little something maybe.
Yeah.
For He-Man on your channel, right? Like,
yeah.
Don't spoil it.
Outside the game, I should say. Outside the game.
Yeah, well, listen, don't tell us what's going to happen, though, because I like to be surprised.
Yeah, let's just say that I've got a birthday coming up and, you know, maybe I'll be doing, you know, maybe I'll do like some goals for a He-Man outfit and we'll see.
Nice.
This is nebulous. We'll see.
Yes, maybe. Happy birthday early, my friends.
Thank you.
I love collabing with you, man. So we're going to talk today about underrated masteries and blessings, basically ones that we absolutely, we love, right? We love that not a lot of people we see as like the kind of the chalk blessings and masteries that people go for no matter what. I feel like too often, I'm just going to admit it. I don't know about you, Drock, but like when I started playing this game, blessings obviously weren't out, but masteries, I did this way too long. I just copy pasted whatever I found on YouTube or whatever I found on, you know, online at the time, right? Like a Yumi Love or whatever at the time. And looking back, it's like, you know, it's not the end of the world, right? But I missed out on some really unsung masteries and some blessings after that as well, that we're going to talk about in today's video. So we have not shared lists at all. So I'm excited to see what you pick as well. Did you do the same thing though? Like early on, did you just like,
Dude, that's
blindly copy anything, not even know what you're doing?
I'm not even kidding you. That's literally one of the reasons why I started watching your channel. And it's funny because you would always talk about in your videos, don't blindly copy masteries.
Yes.
I remember this. Like you would specifically say this.
I don't say that much anymore. I should probably keep saying it. Yeah.
You used to say it all the time. And
Yeah.
I would just be like, whatever, Ash, I'll do what I want to do. Copy, you know? So even to this day, hilariously enough, even though I know the masteries, I still will go check Hell Hades and Ayumi Love just to be like, just let me give me an idea. Let me just think about how I want to best build this champion, even now.
I was like that, not to say that I'm elevated. I should probably still check. I should probably do the same. But I just, eventually you do it enough, like every single mastery. It's weird. Like this game, it feels so daunting and overwhelming in the beginning. It did back in my day when I started playing 5 years ago. So I can't imagine now, like, you just feel in the beginning of this game like you'll never learn it all, you know? Like, yeah. Dude, I don't have a PhD in freaking Raid Shadow Legends, man. I am not going to learn any of this stuff. So it's so much easier to copy. But then when you don't try to learn sometimes, you just pick up, like all you have to do, and I say this, and it's the most obvious advice in the history of the world in Raid, but just read what they do. That's it. Like, don't like, you're not taking a quiz. You don't have to write it down. There's not going to be a test at the end, but just try to read and comprehend, not just in the very early game, not just masteries, but just what your champions are doing, you know? Because I know from other games that like sometimes you'll go an embarrassingly long amount of time before even reading your champion skills. Sometimes you just be like, yeah, they're doing awesome. And you don't even like, what are they doing? I don't know. They're a nuker. I know that, you know?
Yeah, he's doing what he needs to do.
So just read these.
Come on, let's study a little bit.
I don't want to study.
Give me that.
Just read the blessings, read the masteries if you're a new player, or if you do what we did, right? Like just copy them. Just read what they do, and that's how you'll learn. You'll eventually, over time, you will learn and you'll be able to make those decisions, which trees you want to go down, and maybe which unorthodox build or blessing that you want or mastery that you want on your champions. So, are you a rap fan at all? Do you like rap music or no?
Yeah, I love rap music.
You listen to Kendrick's new album?
You know, I actually have not, and it's a shame.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
I need to listen to it.
Where did that come from?
It's apropos of nothing, but I had it on the background right before you called.
That came out of nowhere. You like rap music, by the way?
By the way, before blessings, what do you think of Kendrick Lamar Drake beef? What do you think about that?
What do you think about the beat?
All right, man. All right, just trying to just keep you on your toes, Drock. All right.
Yeah.
What do you got? You're the guest. Go first. What's one of your most underrated masteries that you love using?
Okay, well, question for you. Do you want to start, like, are we going to start in one tree and stay in that tree? Or are we jumping around? How do you want to do it?
I don't know. You know what? It's a blank slate bingo board. Go wherever the hell you want to go.
Oh, baby. Okay, I feel like I'm playing Jeopardy right now.
Yeah, right.
Good. Okay. If we're going to start anywhere, I think I'm going to start with this blessing because you don't see it too often except on specific champions. And that if you go over to the offense tree, if you look at Blood Shield,
Okay.
So
I like
blood
this.
shield is something you don't see this very often. So
Not very
if you
often,
read it,
no.
it says places a shield buff on this champion for 1 turn when this champion kills an enemy except boss's minions, and the value of the shield is equal to 15% of this champion's max HP. So I feel like this is an underrated blessing specifically for HP based champions, because if you think about it, someone like a Taurus,
Yeah.
massive HP, you could end up putting a massive shield on them after they take someone out, or even somebody strangely enough like a Rotos, whose HP scales over time.
Yep.
And suddenly, like as Rotos, you get rolling.
He-Man?
People.
Maybe He-Man.
Maybe He-Man potentially.
Yep.
Why not?
Eric's.
So,
yeah.
Yes, Eric's absolutely. So it's one of those blessings where I think you don't see it get as much love as it deserves, because it can really give you a lot of survivability after you take somebody out with a nuker.
That's a good one, man. I like that. I don't pick it enough, honestly. So I'm guilty as charged, you know? Okay. I'm going to go with one that I tried to go deep here, and one that I just literally did not use for a long time. And then when I started using it, I started asking myself, what the hell was I thinking not using this blessing? And it's actually Wisdom of Battle. Wisdom of Battle. Yeah. Dude. This one's so good. And I feel like people, I don't know why, because I don't really like stubbornness, you know? So like I never went down the right-hand side of defense that often, but man, Wisdom of Battle is nasty. Having a 30% chance, I mean, it's not sky high, but it's a really solid 1 in 3 shot almost, placing a block debuffs on your champion when any CC expires, right? Like this is one that you just don't appreciate, because half the time you don't even notice it happening. But I noticed it a couple times in the arenas, you know, and I'm like, I remember when it happened, I was so happy that I had that blessing, you know, I was like, wow, look at that. Because you don't even like, I feel like when you read a mastery like this, you just don't, it's hard to quantify in your head, Drock, that like the number of times that a CC debuff wears off, but then you really want a D, because like when a stun wears off, when a petrification wears off, you have no buffs, you know? So a block debuffs is huge. You need some protection there, right? So yeah. I think Wisdom of Battle is super underrated. I really like it, and I didn't use it for a long time. Seems like you agree. Yeah.
This is actually like literally, if you hadn't gone here next, this is where I was going to go, because.
Oh, okay. Sorry for the snipe.
No. I'm glad you picked it, because it's such a good blessing, and it absolutely is underrated, and you see it in high level arena all the time. And honestly, it can really screw something up, where if you are trying to CC somebody and suddenly they pop out of it and you can't re-CC them, your entire team could get wrecked if it's the wrong champion. So I think it's a fantastic choice.
Thank you. All right, you're up next.
I'm up next.
I have no idea how many you prepared for this video.
That's the beautiful thing, Ash. I prepared none. This is all off the top of my head, which is great.
I like it.
Can we get serious now?
I do have one that I think you don't see super often. I really like this blessing on, again, specific champions. And that is, if we're staying in the defense tree, if you look at Selfless Defender.
Okay.
Selfless Defender. So I really like this blessing specifically on champions that you're building that are going to be maybe potentially slower and in Stone Skin. Just because it, like, essentially you're getting a double boost there. You're absorbing damage anytime from that first hit from your other champions, like if they get nuked. But the beautiful thing about being in Stone Skin is that damage doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? Like the champion that's in the Stone Skin doesn't take the damage to their health. They just take it to the Stone Skin. And therefore you can hypothetically keep some of your other champions alive longer. So I try to use this on, for example, if I'm building an Arbaeus team that's slower and I'm using like her second form, or I'm putting her, you know, in Stone Skin for her first form, how she used to be built most of the time. This was a blessing that I used all the time. And I think it's such a sneaky way to try to keep a go second team alive when you don't have the speed to compete with people that are faster than you.
I 100% agree. I love it with the Stone Skin, just like you pointed out there. There's something like you can, even in PvE, you can just really go just balls to the wall with, I was trying to think of a more family friendly way to say that. I'm like,
all you gotta do is say earmuffs to him. Earmuffs.
Possible. With like an all-out tank build, right? You can go Selfless Defender. You can go down and pick up Bulwark as well, and you can throw in like Guardian gear. And next thing you know, you have like this ultimate tank soaking up all this damage. You can really just load up on the defense tree if you want to make like the perfect tank for your team and damage mitigator. So totally agree with you there. I mean, hell, man, I'm gonna stay in the defense tree. Why not, right? Yeah. I'm gonna go with. I think people know this, but a quick shout out to Harvest Despair. Like anybody that you ever put in a stun set, you gotta pick up Harvest Despair. And it makes a lot of sense too, because a lot of people in stun sets go down to Fearsome Presence anyway, 2 below. So Harvest Despair, I mean, every time you land those stuns and wave content, you're also gonna be helping to heal with that 60%, which is really high percentage to place to leech. So even if they're not a stun champion, stun sets always go with Harvest Despair. I'm gonna cheat and go 2 for 1 here. Resurgent is probably not underrated at all, but Resurgent is like the cousin of Wisdom of Battle, right? Resurgent is the one that has a 50% chance to remove a random debuff from this champion when they lose 25% of their max HP. Again, this one I'm sure is a go-to for you in almost every player, but I think I'll cheat a little bit and pick 2 kind of popular ones in Harvest Despair and Resurgent as ones that I really always try to pick if I go down the defense tree. I guess always on Resurgent, sometimes on Harvest Despair.
Yeah. I mean, I think those are both great choices. And again, like you're definitely not going to see Harvest Despair on most builds, but for PvE content, it can make a difference, especially for a player that's maybe.
Yeah, you're such an arena guy that you're like, Harvest Despair, what's that?
What the heck is Harvest Despair? I'm literally like clicking here, like, which one is that again? Remind me. Oh, yes. It's the leech one, but that's how you know it's actually genuinely underrated.
Indeed.
I do think for PvE content, especially if you're like mid game, potentially like early game, mid game, that actually could be something that keeps you alive. Yeah. So I do like that one. And like Resurgent, I definitely like that's such a great one.
It's a good combo, you know, Resurgent and Wisdom, pick them both up. It's like there's a lot of like combo. I feel like there's a lot of combo masteries, kind of like Life Drinker and Shadow Heal and Exalt in Death. I mean, you can't have all 3, but you like 2 out of the 3, you're gonna get those like built-in extra heals as you go. So I like combining 2 of those just to help with like survivability, obviously on my champions. But anyway, I've like cheated and said like 15 in my turn. What you got next?
What have I got left? So okay, I'm wondering if these are what you would consider to be underrated, only because the meta has changed a lot for arena type stuff. But if you look in the offense tree, one of the things that changed in the last 2.5 years in Raid is pretty much all the time when you were looking at how nukers were built, they were built with ruthless ambush and they were built with opportunists, right? Because people were sleeping, they were putting out debuffs, etc. And then they fell out of the meta.
I like where you're going here. Yeah.
Fell out of the meta, and the two like masteries that took over for them were really Wrath or Whirlwind of Death, I should say, Whirlwind of Death. Just making champions faster, which I think is so incredibly strong in arena, especially now in live arena, because everything seems to be a speed race, and having up to 18 additional speed is massive. So this was a blessing that I think really started to pick up speed, and I think people don't give enough credit for even today on certain champions. And then the other one, and you can stack with this blessing if you're going in the accurate support tree, but the other one is Cycle of Violence.
Yes.
This is such an incredibly strong blessing, and I didn't really understand until we all started getting away from Ruthless Ambush and Opportunist. I mean, 30% chance of decreasing the cooldown of a random skill
is insane, really.
Like, it's nuts.
It's not a high barrier, to get that.
No, it's not a high barrier at all when you think about how strong nukers can be built. And that is so massive, especially when you combine it with, for example, Cycle of Magic, where you could hypothetically just be getting your skills back over and over and over again. And then add in, like, let's say you build someone, I think you did a video recently on building Sun Wukong in a Merciless, like a full Merciless set. Well, just imagine if you've got Cycle of Violence and you've got Cycle of Magic and you've got Merciless. Like your dude is just taking
turns, using skills all over the place.
So I think that you talk about combos, those are the 2 of the ones that I think really surprised me when they first came around. I didn't know how strong they were.
Totally agree. I have another combo for you, and it's really, again, kind of a three-way combo, so it's not three, obviously, but I love all, and you mentioned two of them right there. I love, and these are probably more meta than, to be fair, are super underrated, but I love the cycles, right? Like I had on my list, like Cycle of Violence, Cycle of Revenge, Cycle of Magic. I used to think that Cycle of Magic, 5%, who cares? You know, but that 5%, especially in this tier 4, like, I feel like it can be on some champions, there can be not a lot of obvious choices here, you know? And Cycle of Magic, I always start to pick up because when it procs, it's huge, you know? It's a full cooldown, or it's a 1 turn, cooldown. But that 5% procs more than you think it would, especially in longer battles too, but maybe even shorter battles, like, because you're obviously a short battle guy, kind of, right? PvP mainly.
Yeah, I don't have.
Do you pick it a lot?
I don't have the stamina, Ash. I just, you know, once.
But you
it's over quick.
Hey, at least you bring the, well, whatever. I'm just gonna back out of this one while I'm ahead. All right. So yeah, Cycle of Magic. You use it? You like it?
Yeah, I do use it. I use it a lot. I use Cycle of Magic all the time, and I love it because, again, I, like you, thought, hey, 5% chance to proc, that's nothing. Like, there's like that. I
was like, dude, I don't care, man. Give me Laura Steel. I don't even need Laura Steel. Just give it anyway. I might need it in the future. Yeah.
It's just, you know why? Because even though it's only a 5% chance, that skill cooldown reduction is a massive difference. That's the thing. It's, you know, very, very, very low chance of proccing, but extremely high reward, right? Like,
indeed.
It's so good.
Yep. And I just like, I love kind of another combo. I love on my healers or revivers or supports that I really want to get back to turns. I love Cycle of Revenge, turn meter fill when an ally's attack with a critical hit, with the combination of timely intervention, you know? That way, they're always going to get back to their turns when someone's taking a lot of damage, you know? And that's when you want those healers and the revivers to be ready, you know, Johnny on the spot with the revives or the heals, right? So I think those are like some of my most favorite underrateds. I'm sure we could be here all day talking about, like, a lot of these masteries are very good. Are there any that we didn't mention that you want to shout out, or?
You know, so the only thing I would mention, you see this a lot in builds anyway, but I think the combo of when you look at Master Hexer and Sniper, especially for stuff like Marius, where you're getting a higher chance of placing Enfeeble and you're potentially making it last 2 turns instead of 1. There are a couple champions that place really specific debuffs that are extremely annoying. Another great example is just block active skills, right?
I was just gonna say it. I was just gonna say those. You know? Like, I'm not saying anything. Don't, like, blame us, my lovely audience. But bro, it feels like block active skills should be on this list of exceptions. You know. But hey, I'm cool with it. You know,
I completely agree with you because, you know what, I would call it a cooldown light, right? Like, a cooldown lockout light, where you know, only if a champion has a great A1 can they get around it very easily. But you think about it, you know, you're basically just making sure that somebody can't use any of their skills for the same, like, for 2 turns, for potentially 3 turns. If you know, if you make it longer depending on the champion. So those in combo are extremely disgusting to face, and definitely some of the more underrated blessings that people don't think to put, at least for the arena, don't necessarily think to put at all levels on their champions.
Absolutely agree. All right. Okay, let's go to, hey, I had a whole video with Saf talking about this, but I got to ask, do you understand oppressor? Because I don't think anybody does.
I'm not even kidding. I was looking at this blessing. I've never once used this, and I just thought, what the heck does this actually do? Like, you know,
I've used it, and it's, like, so difficult to quantify how good or bad it is, honestly.
I was just to say, there are a couple blessings here where I feel like they really could rework them to make them better. That would be one of the ones I'd love to see changed. I'd love to see, for example, stubbornness changed. Because it's completely pointless. There's like 4 or 5 blessings overall that if they just made small tweaks or at least change the kind of idea of what they did, could give you even more options. So
Oppressor's a weird one. I had Saf on, who's, like, one of the smartest minds, I think, in raid creators, and he's like, I don't know. He's like, I don't know. Because the way it's increased the turn meter fill rate by 2.5% for each active debuff cast by this champion. Turn meter fill rate increase.
So I guess
that's like a weird way to word whatever the hell it's doing, you know?
I think it's like, what, like a permanent boost to your turn meter fill whenever it's filled, I guess?
Like, how do you quantify that in terms of speed? Like, it's just a weird like, this is the only ability that I know of that has, like, a permanent increase of the fill rate percentage.
Well, you know, it's not exactly like they're, you know, really sort of like...
Yeah.
It's just very strange, you know? Anyway, I digress. Blessings time. We won't be here all day, but hey, why don't you give me a blessing or two that you absolutely love? Well, give me one to start out with.
I've been calling them blessings the entire time instead of masteries.
I know you have, but it's okay.
I'm really good at raid, guys.
You confused the hell out of me in the beginning. I'm like, oh, he's got a blessing to start out with. Great.
It's been a long day.
I hear you, man. It's all good. It's all good.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, these are masteries.
I mean, do you have any masteries you want to talk about now that we talked about blessings?
Osama saved me in the editing room.
Oh, he's going to be relentless on you in the editing room. He's not going to save you.
I know. I'm cooked, man. It's over for me. Okay. Yeah. Now let's go to actual blessings.
Yes.
Instead of
yes. Do you want me to go first here? Get you off the hook?
You go first, but
All
I
right.
have a couple.
All right, cool. I'm going to go with a survival instinct. I'm going to go rare. I can tell by the look on your face that you don't use it a lot. You're like,
You don't use that at all, yeah.
Partially fills a champion's turn meter whenever a debuff is placed, spread, or transferred onto them. Occurs once per enemy turn. I like survival instinct. It goes all the way up to a 10% turn meter increase every time they get a debuff. I really like this specifically against, you know, bosses that dish out a lot of debuffs, like a dragon, for example, all those poisons that you can't resist anyway, or a Hydra for all the true fears from the Head of Torment. I think that it's a kind of a really underrated. Sometimes you have those champions, you're just not sure, like, oh, they're not a damage dealer, like, what am I gonna go with here? You know, like, do I go cruelty or something? You know, like, and I feel like this one, survival instinct, is definitely underrated in that regard. It's nice to have that turn meter fill every time you're getting a debuff, you know?
Yeah.
Or
actually,
the chance of it, yeah.
Actually not bad at all. And I think I'm going to piggyback off of that to something that is similar, but does some of these a little bit differently. And that's chainbreaker in the war category.
Ooh, okay. That's a good one.
This is actually a sneakily good blessing.
Okay.
Like, this is a surprisingly good one. And I've seen people use this in arena on champions like Sifi, or even potentially Marius. And that's because if you happen to get CC'd, right? Except for, doesn't work on sheep, unfortunately. But if you get stunned, petrified, anything like that, it will cleanse it at the start of the champion's turn, allowing you to take a turn. And then that can, like, again, if someone's trying to CC you, you're out of it. You can potentially disrupt what they're doing. And then the other aspect of it that is really, really, really underrated is the massive turn meter fill.
I know, right?
If you get hit, and you think about it's on hit, I believe. So it's not even on, it's not like once per turn, it's once per hit. So think about triple hits. Like, if you're facing a Marius and you have this on there, you know, you're potentially upping your turn meter to a point where you're cutting in.
It's a real good one. Yeah,
this is a good one that people.
I'm gonna be real with you.
I
I don't use it often, so I'm excited that you mentioned it. Yeah, I'm gonna start using it more.
It's good.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna stay right here in the same category. I think people are starting to be like onto this now and keen on Life Harvest, but I felt like for a while no one was really using Life Harvest, and I think similar to what I was speaking about on the other blessing on champions that are not damage dealers. It could be a Sifi, it could be a Dud, it doesn't matter. But having somebody with Life Harvest on your team is pretty dang powerful. It's destroying enemies' HP by a certain amount every time they're revived. And also, whenever an enemy is revived, partially fills this champion's turn meter for each enemy revived. So you can get a 30% turn meter fill for each enemy revived, so potentially a 60%, heck, maybe a 90% turn meter fill if 3 are revived on the other team, and destroying enemy max HP by 40% at 6, but even 30 or 20%. It's funny. I had Cruisin on, right? And I know you've done collabs with him as well. And he was like, I asked him, I was just like, just an honest question. I was like, does destroy enemy max HP in the arena, does it really make that much of a difference on Life Harvest? And he's like, it makes a huge difference, like, and how squishy they are, especially if they start getting multiple revives, you know, or even a Sun Wukong, for example, you know. And I'm like, ooh, you know what? That's a really good point. Not that Sun Wukong, like, I guess it doesn't really matter, because if he's going to be dead again and right back up to life.
We killed you! We killed you!
You get the point, right? And you still get the turn meter fill. So yeah, Life Harvest is definitely a blessing that I'm using a lot more than I used to.
Yeah, we'll also think about like HP-based nukers and their damage, right?
Yeah.
As long as it's not Taurus, Life Harvest actually reduces their damage. You know what I mean? So if they get res,
Narcissus,
they're gonna do less damage.
Yeah,
Narcissus is a great example of this. But so all right, funny enough, staying in the war trade in the war tree.
Faultless?
No,
okay.
no. Faultless Vets is great for Fire Knight, and I do actually use that on my Martyr. But I'm actually gonna go Soul Reap, and the reason why I'd say Soul Reap is underrated is because for most high-level arena players, Soul Reap fell out of favor with the rise of Harima. Like this blessing gets countered pretty hard by Harima and doesn't do what it's supposed to do, where it kills people. But now with Marius coming into the game, Soul Reap is actually kind of nasty on that champion specifically, because you're doing multiple AoE hits and you have a much better chance of getting down to that 20% threshold if you're fully fully awakened, fully blessed up. This is a sneaky one again that people underestimate, I think, nowadays. Whereas when it first came out, this was like the blessing that people put on their nukers consistently until it fell out of favor. So I actually really like this blessing on a couple of AoE based champions specifically. Also, especially because they changed the way that blessings work in terms of the stat boost that you get, right? Like that's the other big thing, because this was only an attack based one, whereas now you could hypothetically use it on everybody except I believe Taurus. Taurus is the one that you probably shouldn't use this on. I can't remember. On Soul Reap? No, there was there was another one I'm talking about. What is the one? No, it was Soul Reap. It was Soul Reap because it affected your attack. That's why it doesn't matter anymore. But got you. But I love it. I mean, it's kind of a more niche call out. I'm sure you already know this, but like I love it on Inithwi, Blood Twin, because the Final Doom passive, it ignores, it blocks revive on anybody he kills. So normally the Soul Reap will not block revive. If I had Constantine, for example, right, and he kills somebody with the Reaper, it won't block the revive off the Reaper death. But on Inithwi, because it's a passive that says every time this champion kills or every enemy this champion kills cannot be revived, the way it's worded, not by a skill, it gets credit for Soul Reap. So the Soul Reap ignores revive on Inithwi, which is pretty fun. All right, I got one more on my end. I mean, we've had whole videos talking about like in-depth on blessings. There's a lot of good ones, obviously, but I'm gonna give a call out to one of the newer ones, I guess, and that is for Nature's Wrath. Pretty good one. This one is, I did pretty extensive play testing, but I say expensive too, I guess, Freudian slip.
Oh, I don't mind.
I say expensive and extensive play testing, meaning that I just tried 10 rounds and I saw what was better, but I tried it with Venus, and I ended up switching to Nature's Wrath. And she ended up doing more damage. And I had her on, I tried, other offensive, Cruelty, Crushing Rend, Masteries, right? And it just was for someone who's dishing out 3 debuffs, in their kit at least, and she has 4. She has decreased defense, she has weaken, HP burn, and poison on her A1. It can really, obviously depending on the level, getting that extra damage for each debuff placed by this champion, and that's up to 30%. It's super great in longer battles, especially,
Yeah. Well, extra damage is such a, when you're doing just raw damage increase, that's so strong. You know what I mean? That's such a massive boost
for sure
to what somebody is doing, as opposed to we're decreasing defense or we're
just straight up damage.
This is just
how I learned that the hard way is mythical skill tomes, bro. You know why? You know what I'm saying? Because some of them are just extra 30% damage or 25% damage. And I'm so conditioned in this game to being damage books, who cares? But when you're talking 25% damage for one book on those champions, impossible to get aside, it makes a big difference, massive difference. But yeah, they are impossible to get. There's another video right there. We should talk about that. You have any final call outs here on the blessings?
I could honestly talk all day about blessings as well as masteries. I think the only.
Do you use Heaven Cast at all?
What was that?
I was going to ask, do you use Heaven Cast a lot?
I do use Heaven Cast, actually. Okay. Yes, I do on certain champions, but I think a blessing that's now more popular than it was. Again, it's interesting how this stuff changes over time depending on champions they put in the game or gear sets they put in the game. But one of the ones that's made a big comeback right now is Lightning Cage, for example. Right? Lightning Cage protecting buffs. Yep. You think about how many champions now, especially with Pinpoint, where they can strip buffs and not get polymorphs, so that's back on the menu. Now Lightning Cage is back. It was always a great blessing. But again, a blessing that fell out of favor for a while because people weren't debuffing, they weren't stripping as much. Now they're doing those things. Now this is, again, a really good counter to that, as long as you have it at level 5. That's the thing. Like, some of these you have to have higher levels in order to really get the value out of the blessing.
It's it could be so annoying to go against like a pinpoint stone skin lightning cage champion, you know,
brutal.
the trifecta of protection. You're like, oh god, I'll never get through, you know. But I agree with you. Well, hey, BigPoppaDrock, guys, if you're not subscribed to Drock's channel, go ahead and check him out. What are you waiting for? I've noticed that after we collabed, I've noticed that you've been getting around, bro. You've been getting around. A lot of collabs on the channel, and honest to God, though, like, jokes aside, it is some great combos out there. I always love your collabs. You bring such good energy and synergy with whoever your guest is. So people ought to go and check out your entire catalog on the YouTube channel.
Dude, I really appreciate that, man. You know, I think honestly, I kind of took after you in that regard, where, and you did a video on this recently, and it was 100% true. But like I feel like are the king of seeking out people to collab with. And
when your content sucks, you got to do something, you know. You can't just you need to bring people on to
he's humble
upgrade.
too, guys. He's humble. Don't let him trick you, though. But like, realistically, you've done such a great job of finding creators to do that with, and I think also specifically smaller creators. And I know I have benefited from being introduced to your audience, but you know, you're kind of the model in that regard. And so the thing I always said after getting the chance to collab with you was, you know, if someone is interested, just come to me with an idea and I'm happy to do it. Right? Like, what does it hurt? You know, maybe you get an amazing piece of content out of it, maybe you don't. But at the very least, you get to meet someone else in the community. And I think that's one of the best parts, in my opinion, about doing this kind of stuff in Raid, is the people that you actually get to work with. So
I completely agree, man. You can talk about champions till you're blue in the face, but you bring somebody else in to hear their opinions on it at the same time. Same thing with masteries and blessings, like today's video, and it's suddenly novel, or it's more interesting than it would be sometimes by yourself. So hats off to you. Congratulations on the channel success. We'll have links to Drock's channel, guys, and that's gonna do it for this one. Thank you for watching until the end, and as always, take care, guys.